Hi everybody, thanks for stopping by and welcome to another episode of the Tea and Trails podcast. And thanks Phoenix Light for sponsoring this week's interview. The best design comes from the actual needs of users. Phoenix takes providing mobile lighting products with excellent performance as the goal and born for harsh environments as its mission. Never forget why you started and your mission can be accomplished. Don't forget patrons can enjoy 10% off and all you lovely listeners get 5% off with the code TNT5. Pop over to www.phoenixlight.co.uk and check them out. This week's guest is 10 times Lakeland 100 finisher Jackie Stretton. When I was doing the research for this week's interview, I stumbled across a social media post from Jackie and I pulled a couple of sentences from it just to share with you before we start. I'm just a normal girl who ended up a little broken but continued to dream big, and as a result, with the support from the most incredible friends and family who've shared this journey with me, I've managed to achieve something that seemed utterly impossible just a few short years ago. It was a really powerful story, and it was generous of Jackie to share a tiny bit of her story with us. Both Eddie and I enjoyed our chat with Jackie, and we hope you do too. Hi, Jackie.
Hello.
How are you doing?
Hi, Jackie. Hello. I'm hoping it's not going to be too crazy noisy in the background because I'm sat in a cafe. Is my noise suppression on?
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah.
Perfect.
I'm a bit jealous about the cafe. I'm sat in my car. I've got my teeth out.
Oh, no. I was thinking, where can I go and sit that the dog's had a walk before I join the call?
Where are you in the country?
I am in Chelmsford in Essex.
Gary, is your wife from Essex? Or is it her family?
Yeah. She was born in Loughton, so Thornwood, Epping, that kind of area.
London-y way, yeah.
Yeah. Essex huge, I never, because it's like all the way at the south end, isn't it? Am I right with that?
Yeah, all the way to the coast. But basically, we've got no hills here, so it's the flat part of England, which doesn't really help with the trail running.
Lots of treadmill running. Wow, there's some great trails though. Because when we'd go to Epping, I'd always end up going to Harlow and jump on the River Stort. Lovely
yeah. There's a good ultra, the Stort 30.
Yes.
The Stort 30. Yeah, that's fast, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a pretty good one. But depends on what the weather's like, because if you get it on a wet day and it's nice and slippery, it's more like running along an ice rink.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I've always fancied that one.
I was watching the OCC coverage today when I was on the treadmill, and I was like, those pros are making it look so easy. Those roots and rocks and stuff.
I just don't know how they do it. Proper mountain goats. The ups, the ups you can train for. It's those downs that they're just fearless, and you think,
and make it look so easy.
Oh, they do.
And make it look so easy, and you're like, what is amazing is they don't like stutter.
No.
I'm always a big stutterer when I'm like, where should I put my feet? Where should I put my feet? Ooh, 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 ooh.
I remember I did the Cheviot Goat a few years ago, and I was at the top of one of the hills coming down, and it was so cold. It was awful. I was nearly hypothermic, and I was like, I can't move. I can't get down this hill. I'm thinking, don't cry. And then somebody, it just must have been someone out on a trail run, she came flying past me, and she was just honestly out of sight all the way down the bottom of this hill before I'd even got a quarter of the way down. And I thought, if I wasn't going to cry before, I'm going to cry now.
I don't know how they do it. I really don't know how they do it. I did see Jim though. There was I must have been UTMB shared a little post. He did nearly roll an ankle when he was going down one of the descents. He just brushed it off.
I was looking at all the forecast for UTMB night is snow up high. I used to live out there, Jackie.
Oh, really?
And it gets like proper, like our winter cold. So you go out the valley and you feel like it's just like normal, 12 degrees, 13 degrees on a cold day. And then you go up 1,000, 2,000 meters and it's like minus whatever, snow, horrendous. And like, that is tough.
I did the Madeira Island Ultra Trail 2020, what year are we in? 25, so it would have been 2023. And that was much the same. It was crazy heat in the day, but I think it feels like -5 on the top of the first summit.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'd never been to Madeira. I had no idea, but thankfully they had a very limited required kit list. So I was like, well, what do? I know I'll use my Lakeland kit list. So I had packed for cold weather in the Lake District.
That base layer in the sail bag.
Oh
that came
yeah,
out.
my merino wool base layer, my gloves, I had everything. All I could think was, we go down from here. As long as I can keep moving and get back down, I'll warm up.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
How is Jake? How's your dog? We had a few messages.
Oh, he's at my feet at the moment. So he was diagnosed a couple of years ago with essentially what's the doggy version of multiple sclerosis.
Okay.
So he's on lots of medication for life. He'll never recover from it, but I manage it. But it's because he's on steroids. He has had a lot of side effects from that, one being pancreatitis. So he had a massive flare up of his pancreatitis last week. So he spent a couple of days on an IV drip at the vet and just on anti-sickness tablets and painkillers. And we seem to be through the other side of that at the moment, but it's tough going.
What breed is he?
He's a French bulldog. He's my whole world, my little boy.
Oh, is he delicious?
He really is. I'll have to send you a picture of him as well.
Please, will you? He's a
local celebrity because French bulldogs are not traditionally running dogs, and I live in a flat, so that's why I got a French bulldog, because I thought it was a bit mean to have an outdoorish dog in a flat. Turns out he loved park running, so he does park run every single week, and we're talking a sub-20 park run dog. His PB was 19:30, and that included a swim stop halfway round. So for a not running dog, he was incredible. But then when he got sick and had to stop running, it was a real shame. So I bought a doggy running buggy. So he still does park run every week. It's just a lot harder for one of us than the other.
This is too much. This is too much.
Everybody knows Jake. I'm walking down the high street in town. They're like, it's the park run dog. So he's a famous boy.
I bet he's got a smoking fast buggy PB though. Wow.
I think we're about 2030 with the buggy. Yeah, we've gone fairly quick, but as I'm getting older, I'm getting slower. So
that is smoking fast. I'll be happy with a sub 20 these days. Wow. We pop your name into AI software and we ask it to generate.
Oh God.
This is good. I take this one. This is
okay, I'm intrigued.
You know, people get like fancy in like neon lights behind them.
Oh,
you might get some of there's some really good stuff in this. I wonder
if it's actually pulled the right Jackie.
Well.
Can you imagine?
I'll let you know if it's all a lie.
Awkward. I'm Doctor. This is the wrong one.
Okay, fingers crossed. Today's guest is living proof that determination can rewrite destiny. Jackie Stretton was told she'd never run again after a devastating car crash left her with a broken back, shattered leg and bleeding on the brain. But less than a year later, she stunned doctors and herself by not just returning to sport, but winning a triathlon. Jackie's story isn't just about recovery, it's about defiance, grit, and the kind of inner fire that refuses to be extinguished. From lying in a drug-induced coma to standing on the podium, she's shown that setbacks don't define us. Our response does. In this episode, we dive into the emotional roller coaster of her journey, the mindset that carried her through, and what it means to chase your dreams when the world says you can't. Whether you're an athlete, a dreamer, or someone rebuilding after a fall, Jackie's story will light a spark. Also, first ever lady in history to complete 10 Lakeland hundreds.
Heavy.
Did you add that last bit on yourself?
I did.
Oh, that's kind of made me feel a bit emotional. I feel like I should frame that and put it behind my desk at work.
This is what I said.
Stuff.
Like, what was the bit when I love it when it says it's about defiance, grit, and the kind of inner fire that refuses to be extinguished. Get that on a t-shirt. Get that on Jake's buggy.
Dangerous.
Well, we ask all our guests. Yeah, thanks for joining us today. Sorry, Jackie. A warm welcome from Eddie and I and everybody else. City and
thank you for having me.
I love it when Gary says that. He always says that as if there's a whole crew.
Yeah,
our crew, our media crew. Yeah.
Well, we ask all our guests, where are you? What's the view from your window? And have you been for a run today?
So I am in Chelmsford in Essex. I'm currently sat in a coffee shop on the middle of the high street. So the view from my window is currently a lot of teenagers riding around on bikes outside, as exciting as that is. And no, I've not been for a run today. I've done some strength and conditioning exercises, which are pretty much my baseline for every day. And been at work, lucky me.
What do you do for work, Jackie?
It sounds more exciting than it actually is in reality. I work for a company that puts sensors into the cameras that go into space to take pictures of planets and the Earth. And that's where it sounds exciting. I negotiate the contracts for the sales of those devices. So basically, in a nutshell, I read small print and argue over it.
Still impressive. That's still super impressive.
Still sounds exciting.
So roughly, pretty much a month out from Lakeland 100. How are you doing? I can't believe it's a month.
I can't believe it. It's always, we're nearly at ballot day again, and it's like, oh, where does that time go? It feels like it just flies by, and we're going to be a month until the race again soon. But I'm feeling okay. I struggled a little bit. I injured my hip while I was running this year. She says optimistically, and I'm still kind of struggling with that. I've also got Achilles tendonitis in both my ankles, which is an ongoing injury that I just deal with, and I just grin and bear it. So I think that's kind of what caused the hip issue this year, because I was running lopsided for most of it. I'm doing a little bit less running at the moment and working a lot more on the rehab, strength and conditioning side to try and get the base fitness and base strength back again.
Well, what would a typical week look like for you, Jackie? Do you still, because I know I did a bit of research, we're very thorough in this podcast. Yeah, you would triathlon. So would you still cycle, lift weights? Would you be chasing elevation for the Lakeland 100?
I'm a very interesting person to ask about my training, because I don't do traditional run training. I used to cycle a lot. After I had my car crash, it was an Ironman distance triathlon I signed up for, mostly because I was raising money for the Air 6 Air ambulance, who had saved my life that day. And I wanted to do something that I couldn't do, so I had to learn to swim. So an Ironman distance triathlon sounded like a great idea. So I did a lot of swim training, a lot of cycle training, and the triathlon I chose wasn't just Ironman distance. It was extreme in that, I don't know if they still do it. It was a Rat Race Adventures event called City to Summit, where the swim was in the Firth of Forth, cycle was across Scotland, and the run was to the summit of Ben Nevis and back down.
Oh my goodness me.
Cool. Gary goes, oh no, and I go, cool.
I mean, it was amazing. It happened. So I did that event almost 14 months to the day after my car crash. Yeah, that was quite an extreme challenge. And that I did do an awful lot more training for. Work and life generally gets in the way of training these days. So I don't cycle so much anymore. I'd love to get back to it one day, but I focus more on the running. That said, most of my training is actually done in the gym. So my typical week can look like a 15-kilometer week, but then I'll be in the gym 3 to 4 days a week as well. And I do a lot of HIIT style training, a lot of weightlifting, a lot of strength training. My upper body, I definitely don't look like I run ultra races. And I probably train more like a CrossFit / high rocks athlete than anything. Don't do either of those two sports though. I just train in that sort of a way. So also with my back injury and I don't have a PCL in my right knee post car crash. I have to work on strengthening the muscles around the injured back and the injured leg. So every morning before work, I get up and do 45 minutes to an hour of strength and conditioning style exercises. And that, I think, is what gives me my baseline fitness, but also that consistency, the repetitive day by day, even though I'm not putting hours and hours into the trail. I train my body when I'm tired every day. And I think that's what builds me up for the ultras. I just keep going every day. But
that serves you really well. Like such a range. You mentioned about the Smoking Fast 5K, but I did also see on Paro 10, like literally just this year, 2025, like a 2:55 London Marathon. So yeah, it's going pretty well. That's a championship, isn't it?
Yes, yeah, championship entry. This year was the first year I actually did some long runs training for the London Marathon. So I run for Nuclear Racers Striders. I've been in the obstacle race team for about 10 years, I'd say. And we're now an affiliated running club as well. And we do sessions together. So we do track sessions every fortnight. We do, at the moment, they're doing quite a few hill training sessions, as much as we can do in the local area. But we also where quite a few of us were doing the marathon, we started just doing long social runs on a Sunday. And long runs are hard when you have to motivate yourself in the winter to get up and go out on your own, especially around doing daily chores, walking the dog, everything that you've got to fit into it. So actually going out with friends and doing some tempo runs and that sort of thing, it was all new to me. I was like, this is great. Why have I never done this before? But yeah, reaching a max of about 35 kilometers in our training runs, which was the first time I've ever actually committed to run training for a marathon. It paid off. I got a good time.
What were they called? Nuclear Running Club? What was the name?
Nuclear Racer Striders.
Yeah, I'm curious how that name come about, you know?
There's an obstacle race event called Nuclear Races. It's at the secret nuclear bunker at Kelvedon Hatch in Essex. And it's all of the events are run around there. So it's a permanent sort of fixture, and they're absolutely brilliant. They do a summer event and they do an autumn event, and they do also Nuclear Fit, which is more like high rock style events throughout the year now as well. Really, really good. It's great for a bit of diversity in training, and just a bit of fun as well. It's kind of a really good release when you are so committed to. When I do my local road races, I train hard. I aim for PBs. I really commit to that. Whereas I find when I do things like my obstacle racing, I can just go and have a laugh. I just have fun. I just switch off, and it's a release. It takes a bit of that pressure off.
What's the vibe like on the elite, the championship start line? Are you literally there like a couple of meters behind the elites?
Yeah, so I think my start time is like about 10 seconds behind the elite men. So I cross that line almost directly behind them. I tend to go towards the back of the elite start though, because I find that I'm not as serious as some of the other elite runners. The championship runners are, really, really quick, really fast. And I'm just very much, yay, I like running and I'm quite lucky to be here. I don't really train so well for these things. So I kind of find that I'm sat there eating my bagel with peanut butter and jam while they're all doing very serious warm-ups. And I think, let's just stand out the way and keep at the back. But that's also quite nice. If I do start at the back of this sort of a field, I then start overtaking, and that's quite and that's always quite motivational as you're going, and you start, as you say, picking them off. And it's probably not so nice for the people you're overtaking, but it's a little bit of a
don't worry about them.
Oh,
smash them. You mentioned, Jackie, about your back in a car crash. Can we start with a little bit? I think it's probably all interrelated about your journey into becoming an athlete and trail running and the accident. Can you sort of tell us a little bit about where you were when that happened, what happened, and then what led you on to the Lakeland journey?
Funnily enough, Lakeland actually started the year before my car crash. I used to do a lot of adventure racing, so mountain biking, kayaking, running and orienteering. So that was where my racing started, but it was all just for fun. It was just something that I did as a hobby on the side. I signed up for Lakeland 50, not having a clue what I was in for. I'd only ever done one half marathon before that, other than my adventure races, and I'd done that in about 2 hours with a broken rib. And about 2-3 weeks before Lakeland 50, I'd been on a wait list, and I contacted Mark Laithwaite and I said, I'm on a wait list. Am I going to be running or am I not? And they contacted me back and said, oh, you seem quite eager. So sure, seeing as you've contacted us, you've got a place. There's a few that have come available. And I was like, okay, great. No idea what I was doing, but I loved every minute of it. I'd never felt pain quite like it. And I had the proper John Wayne walk for about 2 weeks afterwards, because I was in bits, but I smiled from start to finish. I loved everything. I loved finding out that I could push my body so much further than I'd ever considered was even possible. As I say, it wasn't something that had crossed my mind. I was just like, well, let's just go and see what I can do. The year after that, in the April, was when I then had my car crash. I had been driving to work on the morning of the car crash, and I was in the wrong place at the wrong time. It was a blind corner, and in the opposite direction around the corner was a stolen car being pursued by police at 80 miles an hour. And they crossed over onto my side of the road. They lost control of their car and they hit my car. My car then broke its front wheel drive and went head on into the police car that was pursuing them, which then pushed me backwards into the car behind me. So it was very extreme. I don't remember a thing from the car crash. I was fully conscious throughout, apparently. I know. And I had somehow managed to get myself out of the car and was wandering around.
Of course. Of course. I wouldn't put it
As you
past you
do.
now. I've heard about all your training.
This is the funny thing, though. I know this is the funny thing, though. One of my friends was actually in the fire crew that came to rescue me. I'd been an air cadet my whole teenage life, and one of my best friends, air cadet wise, had been in that
Oh my
fire crew.
God.
And so when I spoke to him afterwards, he said that I had a funny accent. They all thought I was foreign. And I'd been asking for my dad and asking if I could come out of hiding. And when I pieced it together, I was born in South Africa. I had reverted to childhood.
Wow.
I was a proper daddy's girl when I was a child. I had picked up my South African accent, and at school in South Africa we used to have bomb drills where we used to hide under the tables. So in my head I was obviously I'd become a child again. I wanted my dad, and I thought a bomb had gone off. So it's funny when you piece these things together and you think that's incredible what the brain does. And I don't remember any of that. And then they'd obviously had to call the air ambulance to put me in an induced coma because they knew I was doing damage. They knew I'd really injured myself, and there was a risk that I was.
But you got yourself out of you.
Oh,
you
yeah.
got yourself out of the car.
I got
so
myself
presumably
out.
You were standing, or
I was
and then
apparently wandering around.
Oh, Jackie.
I had been warned that I might get memories come back at some point in my life, which petrifies me. I hope to never ever get those flashbacks at any point. It could happen one day. The brain is absolutely incredible. So that memory is stored there somewhere, and I just hope it stays wherever it's stored and doesn't re-emerge.
What was the prognosis then when you were in hospital, when you sort of came round?
I was airlifted to hospital. I had bleeding on the brain. I had broken my back. I had broken my right kneecap. I just basic cuts and bruises all over me. So very, very much worse for wear. My parents were rushed to hospital and told that the chances was that I possibly wouldn't be alive by the time they got there. When they got there, luckily I was still alive. I was in a coma for a few days. I was very, very lucky that they'd taken me to Romford, Queens in Romford, and they're notorious for dealing with back injuries. And the doctor who treated me asked a little bit about me first and found out that I was very much into my sports and decided to treat me conservatively and place me in a back brace rather than operate and put any metal into my back, because he knew that I would feel that for the rest of my life. So I was given a very, very strict set of rules. I had to be in a back brace for 3 months full time. So I was given bed baths. Initially, I was so weak that I couldn't even lift my own toothbrush. I had to have help brushing my teeth for 3 months. I had to have someone wash my hair for me while I was lying down. I couldn't do anything for myself. And then I had a month of weaning out of the back brace where I was given sort of initially half an hour a day, then build up by 15 minutes. And then hopefully at the end of it, have another x-ray and see, has the back stabilized? Is everything still okay? Thankfully, I listened to all of the rules very, very strictly, and it was a burst stable fracture in the L5 in my spine, and it had missed my spinal column. So luckily I didn't have any damage to the spinal column, and it healed. It doesn't come without its difficulties. I call my back old man back is what I refer to it as, because I've got backache every day, which is why every morning I get up and do exercises before I go to work. If I don't do those exercises, I struggle. And to be fair, I do sit in pain and have to get up and wander around most of the time at work because it's just, my back is very stiff. If I were to ever fall pregnant in coming years, we don't know whether that would cause any issues, whether I'd be able to have a natural birth, whether I'd need C-section. We just don't know. So I just try and manage it as best as possible. And at the time as well, where I'd broken my right kneecap, as I think I touched on, I've got no PCL in that right knee anymore. I was in a full length leg cast. So essentially in the back brace and the leg cast, I was just a hinge. I couldn't do anything. And when they took the leg cast off, I think it was about 5-6 weeks after the car crash, the diameter of my right quad had shrunk so much. My right leg was 5 centimeters smaller than my left leg.
How are you coping with this, Jackie, mentally? You're obviously a very mentally strong person. You seem very positive.
It was difficult at first. So I spent a few weeks at home. Thankfully, I still lived with my parents and, they took time off work to look after me because I needed round the clock care initially. I was in so much pain that I wished I had died. I just thought there's no way I can get through this. And when the doctor had said to me, you'll never be able to run properly again, I thought, what's the point? Why did I live through this if I can't do anything that I enjoyed anymore? Why am I here? And then I don't know what happened, but almost like a switch just flicked. And I suddenly thought, who is this doctor to tell me what I can and can't do with my own body? And that was when, at that point in time, I thought, what's happened in the past has happened. There is nothing I can do about what happened to me. These were two drunk drivers in a stolen car. They cannot define my life going forward. They cannot ruin my life. I survived this for a reason. And at that point, I then thought, let's sign up for an Ironman. And then I gave myself something to aim for. And I know it's extreme. It really is. And
I think you need something extreme for that,
I think
though.
I did that. I could really, really strive towards something that I wouldn't have done if it wasn't for that car crash. That really, really kept me driving towards this end goal. And having that goal to aim for every single day gave me a purpose of getting up. And I just thought, this is my body. I define my future. My past won't do that. And I just kept striving for everything I could. And it was a really hard journey. But I said that Lakeland 50 taught me that I could overcome what I never thought was possible. And on those toughest days, I was remembering the hard points on the Lakeland 50. And I thought, if I could get through that race, I can get through this recovery. That's how I learned how strong I could be. And I think when people ask me why I love Lakeland so much, it's a really emotional connection for me because it was what gave me the ability to believe that I could recover from the car crash. And that was only the 50 miler, so it must be a tough race. And then the following, it was the year of the car crash, which had been in the April. That July, I then went back and marshalled at the Lakeland event. I was in stores and I stood on the start line, the finish line, dibbing people in. That was back in the days where we used to have the wrist dibbers.
They're quite big, weren't they?
Oh yeah, they really were.
Was that super emotional?
Yeah, I remember watching so my aim had been I would go back in 2012 and race Lakeland 50 because I'd done quite well the first year in 2011. So the aim was that I was going to go back and race and see if I could podium in 2012. And then I'd move on to the 100 in 2013. But then obviously I was there in 2012 with a broken back in a back brace. Not able to walk properly, limping around and just marshalling as best I could. But it was hard. And I stood watching the coaches with the 50 runners driving off, sobbing my heart out because that should have been me. And at that point in time, I was still not sure whether I would ever be able to stand on the start line again. It was hard. But I figured, I could still be part of that event, even if I wasn't running it. And I loved marshalling that year. And I think that's probably the year that Lakeland became my family because I was so well looked after. And I was really heartbroken at the time that I didn't think I'd be able to do anything like that again. And there I was getting to see other people achieve things. And they were giving me hope and optimism that I would be able to be there the following year. And the following year, I did stand on the start line of the 100 because I was like, I'm not going to derail my plans. I'm going to attempt the 100 in 2013 as planned. Rolled my ankle 10 miles in. I ruptured the ligament and kept going until Pooley Bridge. So at Dale Main, Angela, the lady who looks after the Dale Main checkpoint, she had really tried to convince me that I should probably pull out, but let me choose. I was just going, no, I need to finish. And at this point, the adrenaline had worn off. I'd run 50 miles on a ruptured ankle ligament. And I got up and I hobbled out and I was literally lifting my legs with my hands to move forward. And partway to Pooley Bridge, I started throwing up and I was collapsing. And a spectator had to come and collect me and they carted me off in an ambulance to A&E because I was in bits. So I didn't finish that year.
But that shows how, to double down on your determination. You went back, you didn't finish, then you went again. I'm curious though, were you thinking, we said at the beginning of the show, 10 times finisher, were you thinking slate that early on or was it to complete?
No, I don't even know if a slate existed that early on. I don't think it was a thing. No, I honestly thought the most incredible thing in the world would be to finish that race once because I had DNF'd it. I knew how awful it felt to not finish it when all you want to do is to finish this race. So I went back the following year, 2014, and I just thought, just give it everything. Don't be silly. In 2013, I'd been aiming for a sub 30 time, and I'd been pacing along to that. And despite the rolled ankle, I'd hit Dale Main very, very early, and I was on track for the sub 30. Obviously, couldn't lift my legs anymore. And in 2014, I just thought, do you know what? Don't be silly. Don't work to I need to do a sub 30 time. The goal is that finish line. That is what I want. And went back that year, and despite falling asleep on my feet at quite a few points, I finished. Couldn't believe it. It was just this feeling of utter disbelief that I'd got to the end of this race that I'd been striving towards for a few years, despite what I'd been through and being told that I could probably never run again. Not only had I stood on the start line, but I'd made it all the way to the finish line. At that point, I didn't quite like the ratio of it being 1-1 to DNFing.
Well, a lot of people's emotion is to, I'm not doing that again. But yeah, you're
well, I mean, that's always the initial emotion. As you cross the finish line, you think, thank God I finished. I don't have to come back. I did know that it was 1 to the race and 1 to me. And I had to improve those odds. So I knew I would be going back to make it to 2.
How did you train for it with your bit of your broken body? Like, did you have to be quite inventive with your training for it? What did that look like?
As I sort of touched on, I did a lot of cycling at the time. So most of my leg strength was built through cycling. Basically, I pretty much raced every single weekend because in my head, although I didn't think it was a negative place at the time, looking back on it now, I know it was a negative and bad place to be, that I was of the opinion that my body was already broken. I wouldn't be able to do these things for very long, if at all. Therefore, there was
go. Yeah,
go for it.
That. Yeah.
I can't do any more damage. I'm already broken. So I pretty much traveled everywhere racing, whether it was cycling, whether it was running. I was just racing every weekend and doing everything I could.
Were you coached athlete though, Jackie, at this time?
No, I've never been coached for anything. So I'm quite lucky that my training works for me because it's a very unusual type of training particularly for ultra racers. I just was doing everything, and I work on the basis mostly of listening to my body. So technology has become quite prominent in race life at present. When I first started doing Lakeland, we didn't have things like GPS devices.
It
was following that foldy. And if you got lost, there were far fewer people in those days as well. Yeah. You were lost. So Lakeland used to be a much scarier challenge, that I was in the middle of nowhere, and if I got it wrong and I didn't know how to read a map, I'd probably have to call for help.
Route book. The route book where you'd have to retrace and read the sentences.
Oh yeah, do not move your finger. Make sure you stay on the right line. Oh yes.
You're not even local. Like, I've got the luxury. I can drive for an hour and a half and do huge sections of the course.
Oh no, I had none of that luxury. It's probably why I've done it so many times, is that one day I'll be able to do it with my eyes closed.
Do you reckon you could do it now without a watch? Do you reckon you know it all off by heart?
Mostly, yes. There's a few bits that are, when you do them in the dark.
Yeah, it's still easy to take a wrong turn.
There's a bit after you leave Buttermere, you go right through the fence and you go through that little section of woods.
Yeah.
I have never got that section of woods right.
We got that wrong this year. Unbelievable.
It's like the magical, mystical forest. You just don't know where you're going to end up. And suddenly there's people that are above you, and you're looking, thinking, where did they come from? All I know is when you get to that stile by the fence at the end, you've made it through the magical, mystical woods. And it's such an accomplishment every year. And it's like, will I make it? Will I won't? So there's just a few little sections like that you think, oh, well, I'd probably get that wrong. It's dark, you're tired already. And but
have you got a favourite part?
I always think coming into Ambleside is incredible. If you get there at the right time, it's just amazing to see so many supporters out, to have so many people there who are just willing you on, and just the furore from being in the middle of nowhere in the middle of the night. You feel like you suddenly hit civilization again, and you think this is incredible, and everybody just wants you to succeed, and it's just an amazing feeling. But likewise, if you hit Dale Main at the right time and you get there after the 50 coaches have arrived but before the runners have started, that's just
what a cheer. Love it.
And I have hit that point a few times in the past, you can't not cry coming into that as you're walking through that, and everybody just the noise that hits you coming in, and you're treated like a superhero.
Pop star,
and you think
it's crazy.
You are a superhero, Jackie.
and you think these 50 runners have got so much admiration for what you've just done, because they think, well, you've already run further than we've got to go, and you've still got to do what we've got to do. And it's just the most incredible feeling. It was obviously a little bit harder this year because the 50 start had moved a few hours. There was no way I was going to get there ahead of the 50 start this year. But that also made the second half much easier for us. So previously in coming into Howtown, I've seen queues all the way up the road just to get into the checkpoints to get a drink. So it was a lot smoother this year. And also running along Haweswater from there, I didn't have to keep jumping out of the way for all the really fast 50 runners. So definitely the new timing, I think, was beneficial, but it made the second half much lonelier. And you always find that when you're super tired on night number 2, I like to call it adopting a 50 runner rather than them adopting me. You pick someone and you just get them to babysit you through the section, basically from Chapel Style to Tilbury Way. I have got no idea.
Put a bungee on them. Yeah,
pretty much. So you adopt a 50 runner and you stick with them. This year I couldn't really do that because there were far fewer 50 runners at that point, but it's all right with GPS now. It's less important. You just follow the line.
Are you hallucinating through the night? You said about the second night.
Rather disappointingly, have never really had any proper hallucinations. All I get is the very basic, I see faces in rocks, and pretty much anything that's head-shaped gets a face attached to it. They tend to be, now this sounds scarier than it actually is at the time, they tend to be Halloween-style faces.
Oh my goodness me.
So, think like...
No more.
Oh, no, but think more like Disney Halloween. So,
Okay.
not the Corpse Bride, the other one that they do. It's those sort of faces. So they're not particularly scary, but I don't know why I see those, but they're quite disappointing in terms of proper hallucinations. I've never had any.
Have you got a favourite? I asked you favourite part of the course. Have you got a favourite year?
A lot of them are interspersed, but again, this sounds a lot worse than it is when you listen to the story behind it. My favourite years are the ones where I've struggled the most. They're the ones where you really, really overcome something, and that makes them the most memorable. So the year I rolled my ankle and ruptured the ligaments where I didn't DNF. So I've done that.
God.
The year I DNF'd was 2013. 2013. I rolled my ankle about 10 miles in. A couple of years later, I rolled my ankle about 5 miles in. Again, fully ruptured the ligament. I'm a pro at rolling my ankles. And that was the first year that I had carried running poles. I'd never used them before. I'd just seen that lots of people carried them, and I was like, well, I'll buy some of those and I'll stick them on my pack. And as I went down, the guy behind me was just like, oh my goodness, are you okay? Like, I thought we were going to have to call like the rescue crews out. I thought Mountain Rescue were going to come fetch me because I couldn't move. And he said, do you want me to get your poles out your bag? And I was like, oh my goodness, I have poles. I tell you what, I finished that year with arms like Popeye, because I had spent the entire remaining 100 miles relying entirely on my arms to get me through that. That's a good year. And then 2 years ago, so 2023, the year I did Madeira Island Ultra Trail and had gone to Italy and done a marathon in it. 2023 was a great year for me. But 8 weeks before Lakeland, I ran a local 10K road race. The finishing 100 meters was on grass. I stepped on a dodgy lump of ground and broke my foot.
Oh my goodness me.
Oh yes. So yeah, just broke the fourth metatarsal in my foot, felt it go. It sounded like I'd stepped on a branch and I heard it just crack. Knew immediately what had happened and looked up ahead like in despair, and I was like, there's the finish line. Oh no. And then I thought, I've broken my foot. I'm not going to be able to run again. And I was like, well, we'd best get to the finish line then.
Yeah, goodness me, finish this one.
I finished that one in second place and crossed the finish line with tears in my eyes in so much pain, and hobbled straight over to the physio, and I was like, hell. Funnily enough, I drove home because I thought, well, maybe it's not broken, and then ended up in A&E that day again. I've got this recurring habit of finishing races in A&E. It's not my best thing to do, but I do it a lot. And that was 8 weeks, almost to the day before the start of Lakeland. And that would have been my 8th Lakeland completion. I didn't think I was going to make it to the start line, but I started seeing my physio 4 weeks after I'd broken my foot. So I was on crutches in an air cast for my foot, walking park run on my crutches and in my air cast. And 4 weeks in, I thought, well, now it's time, the bone's settled. I can go and see the physio. And I've never worked so hard on rehabbing anything in my life, not even my back. I wanted to be on that start line for Lakeland 100, and everyone was saying to me, you know what the terrain is like on this race. This is a really stupid idea. Thought I could make the start line. Wasn't sure I could get even to Dale Main. And I just thought, just take it easy, just enjoy it, use the poles and just see how far you can get. Be careful. And a couple of days before the race, I was having real doubts of should I be there? Is this even possible? And I went to see the physio for the last session on my foot. And he said to me, do you know what? Looking at your foot and looking at the rehab you've done on it, I think you've got this. And that entire race, I had his quiet little voice in my head going, I think you've got this. And that year, luckily as well, I'd run with my friend Colin, who got his slate this year. And we've run this a few times together now. And Colin is kind of my Lakeland buddy now. I'll get onto Fakeland in a second as well with Colin. But that year I ran with Colin, and his wife Sharon was running the 50. And as we were coming in towards Dale Main, I knew that we were close to seeing Sharon on the start line for 50. And I was like, if I can just get Colin there, we can all, we can see Sharon. We got there just in time for Sharon to leave and do her 4-mile Dale Main loop.
Oh, wonderful.
And we then joined Sharon for the rest of the race, and we finished that race together. We pulled each other through. So I ran with Colin and Sharon for the second half of that race, and we got to the end of it. It was just brilliant. I touched on Fakeland there. So the year...
Yeah, come on.
COVID year. Where Lakeland didn't happen. We obviously had the 2 weeks where you could do your virtual 100 miles. And I was thinking, which of my friends can I do the virtual 100 miles with? So I contacted Colin, who's my crazy local friend. Colin had never done Lakeland before. And I said to him, we've got 2 weeks. Do you want to do some long runs with me? And Colin was like, yes and no. I think we can do one better. And I think we can do Lakeland, round Essex. So Colin plotted us a 105-mile route around the plains of Essex. And we started at 6 p.m. on the Friday evening, and we kept going till we finished our 105 miles. And we had checkpoints set up, sort of correlated with where they should have been on Lakeland, and we just had our own Fakeland, as we called it. And the following year, Colin then entered Lakeland for the first time, because I've told him, the ballot's really hard to get in. You probably won't get in, so you may as well enter. He got a place in the ballot, and 5 years down the line this year, he did his fifth Lakeland and got his slate. So Colin's had 5 completions, and most of those have been us running at least part of the course together. Just
like what you said about that camaraderie and kind of friends coming together.
Yeah, and that we did the entire Lakeland 100 together this year. So Colin's done some incredible events this year. So Colin's done the Spine numerous times now. He's going to do the summer and the winter Spine next year. Colin's a machine. I was slowing him down this year, but
no.
What was the finish line emotions like? This is the end of a 10-year journey. I imagine the finish line emotions maybe started at Ambleside and kind of kept building till the weight.
Yeah,
what was it like?
They really did. Mark Laithwaite had got in touch with me on the Friday and had basically said to me, so I had my poster up in the window of the climber shop this year with just a little bit of blurb about, Jackie's done Lakeland 109 times. And Mark Laithwaite's words to me on the Friday were, you'd best not DNF this year, because if you do, I'm going to take a Sharpie to that poster in the window and write DNF all over it. So, that was a bit of a giggle. It was a bit of a joke about that going on. So I knew there was a little bit of pressure to finish, but also it was like, if I don't finish, I can come back next year. I like to be here every year. So I knew I could finish, but with Jake the dog being sick since January last year, my time to commit to endurance training has become less and less, and my focus has been primarily on Jake's health. Yeah. So I've done far fewer events this year. So it was not going to be easy by any means. It just was more about being stubborn and being determined and wanting that finish line. I think crossing the finish line, coming into Coniston, Colin and I still had quite a lot of energy left, and we really belted that last mile or so. And it was incredible to come in and to run across the finish line. But The real special part was to then have Mark Laithwaite stood there waiting for me to greet me on the finish line and to cheer me in and take me in, handhold me into the tent and to announce me coming in. That was a really, really special moment. And I was like, I'm not going to cry. I'm not going to cry. And of course you can't not cry because it's just like the support that was there. I never thought my 10th completion would mean anything to anyone other than me. It was something that it's my longest ever sporting goal. And I thought it was just a personal goal, but they made it an achievement worth shouting about. And that was really, really special.
There was more tears on Sunday, you know, with the...
Oh my goodness. Which I did not expect that. It was only Natasha, Mark's wife, who saw me sitting at the front and she was like, you should be in the VIP area. So I had no idea there was anything going on. And she was like, go and sit in that VIP area. And all I could think was, I'm not sure I can walk. How do I get down there? So, when Mark Laithwaite called my name out and made me walk all the way from the back of the marquee to the front of the marquee, I was like, play it cool, pretend I can walk. I'm not in pain. Oh dear. And then he obviously mentioned a little bit about the story with the car crash and how long I'd been, you know, part of that and what had happened. And it was just totally unexpected and I couldn't not cry. And I mean, I was so tired by that point anyway. I'd not slept for 2 days and just the tears came out. And then when he asked me to say a few words, I just couldn't. I started just choking up and I was like,
you did amazing. You did amazing for being on the spot.
Yeah, a little bit. But yeah, it was really special. And to have a recording of that as well was just, really, really incredible.
I think everybody had something in their eye, Jackie. I'm thinking. Yeah, talking about Mark Laithwaite, I'm curious, at the race briefing, when he gets a competitor to have a chat with the competitor next to them to see who's going to finish the race. Yes, I could see him reeling this guy in, but I didn't know. I was sitting at the back, so I didn't know what the outcome was going to be. And then he read your name out, and I'm like, oh, here we go. But did you have a heads up that was going to happen?
He had told me, could you please make sure you sit towards the front and sit next to someone you don't know? That was all I knew. That was the only thing. So I was sat at the front and he sort of gave me a wave as I walked in and I was like, yeah, hi. Oh, when he picked that poor guy out, all I remembered was his name was Steve, which was great that I'd remembered his name, but also not great that Steve is a very common name. My first question to Mark Laithwaite as I crossed that finish line was, did Steve make it? Because I thought, oh my God, if he's not finished, it's my fault.
Do you know if Steve finished?
It was one of the first things I did when I got internet signal. I went through all of the Steves on the list and all of the Stevens on the list of starters to see had he finished. And then I had to look through all of the profile pictures and I found him and he finished. And I let Mark Laithwaite know and I was like, Mark, he finished. And I did laugh and I said, you know what though, if he didn't finish, he's got the great excuse of, well, only one of us could finish. And obviously I had to make sure it was Jackie. So I very kindly didn't finish for her. So at least he had a very good excuse if he didn't, but I was so pleased to see that he had finished. And I thought, oh, thank goodness I didn't cause him to DNF.
Yeah. I tried to do a flex with the person I was sitting next to. I said, well, I've finished 4 times. I'm going for my slate. I can't remember the exact numbers, but I think he was on 8 finishes. So I thought, oh my goodness me.
Oh no. Oh dear.
But yeah, I love the race briefing. It just, the tone of it, it's repetitive. You know, for anyone who's not done the Lakeland 100 or Lakeland 50.
Oh yeah.
It's the same format, but it's like when a comedian does your favourite joke. You know it's funny.
You can't miss it. I know. Yeah, it's just brilliant. Every year is great. Although it does put the pressure on if my name is announced, and I'm like, oh god, now I have to finish.
So yeah, ballot does open soon. Are you gonna? I've said I'm not going to put my name in the ballot. I might, hopefully, be on helping out, maybe one of the checkpoints. What about yourself? Are you going to be going for 11?
I've had a couple of years marshalling and I love marshalling. I tell you what, marshalling though is when I marshalled the year at Tilbuthwaite, a 24-hour shift non-stop. That was really, really hard work. And sometimes it's harder than running the race itself.
So hard.
I am due another year marshalling, but I enjoyed it so much this year. I feel like I have to enter the ballot next year and, you know, we'll just throw the cards in the air and see what happens. So if I get a place, I get a place. If I don't, then I'm happy that I'll be marshalling again.
Yeah.
So
if the universe speaks, you'll be there.
Life will tell me what I'm supposed to be doing.
And what about the rest of 2025 and other races potentially for 2026?
I've got quite a few that are on my bucket list, but again, my focus is mostly on Jake the dog.
Yeah.
I'm finding it really hard to plan anything because his health can just, within the space of an hour, switch. Yeah. I'd like to go back to Madeira and race in Madeira again. I'd love to do race across Scotland. I've just been dot watching that a couple of weeks ago. So that's on the bucket list. There's a few bigger ones that I'd like to go back to. Also depends on finances. These things aren't cheap. So when I pick, I have to pick wisely because I can only choose one or two that are really big ones to do. I'd like to do a lot more abroad again. So Cappadocia is really on my bucket list. It's been on the bucket list for years. And I have done a few really good ones abroad that I'd like to go back to. I've done the Transylvania 50K. I'd like to go back and do the 100 at some point. Got chased by a bear on that one. So
excellent.
That was an experience and a half. There's a few that I'd like to go back to.
What about the majors? You've got all the qualifying times for all of the majors. Would that be a long-term goal?
It could be, but I also use my ultras as my escape and freedom time. So that's how I switch off from life. And I put a lot of pressure on myself when I do the shorter marathons, the 10Ks. I always want to get through these and I want to perform as best I can. The difference when I do an ultra is that's my relaxation time. I just go out and I enjoy being in the middle of nowhere and seeing beautiful sights and just switching off from life for a few days. I don't know whether I'd be tempted to try and race them and that then puts the pressure on.
It's funny, isn't it? We find something that we love, then we maybe get quite good at it, and then you layer on all the pressure, and it
becomes more of a job than a hobby. Yeah.
It's a good point.
Yeah.
Eddie normally does this. We do a workout of the week where it could be anything. It could be, just joy miles with friends. It could be a horrible 5 times 1 mile, a horrible treadmill session, or anything like that. Is there anything that you like to do on a weekly basis that maybe we could share with our listeners and hopefully inspire them to do?
So funnily enough, I was listening to Charlotte Fisher's and my love to do is very similar to hers in that because I live in a flat part of the country, my only hill is the Stairmaster, or as I like to refer to it, the Stair Monster, because it's a beast and I hate it. But one of my favourite workouts is as a cool down, anywhere between 10 and 20 minutes on there, what I call sprintervals. 1 minute full speed, 1 minute walking. 1 minute full speed, 1 minute walking. As long as I can do up to 20 minutes. And it is a killer. It's awful. Proper sweat fest. And
your legs would be screaming.
Well, they're already screaming before I start because I've already done the full workout and that's supposedly the cool down. But I tell you what, there's no better way of training for the mountains. So I highly recommend Stair Monster Sprintervals, as I refer to them.
Monster. We will put that out there. Yeah, Charlotte inspired me to go on the step. I've never done it and it really triggered me because I didn't get a distance. I got the elevation, but I didn't get a distance or... It's
a different kind of a challenge and it's brutal. And I also do, Charlotte says she uses her weighted vest. I tend to just hold dumbbells doing it. So 2 5-kilo dumbbells does the same trick and works your forearms as well.
Old school. I love it.
It's brutal. Yeah.
We might just squeeze in the quick 5, see if we can do it before they boot you out of the coffee shop. Okay, right. First question is, do you have a guilty TV pleasure?
I actually don't. I don't fit that much TV into my life, but when it's on, maths, Australia maths, Married at First Sight. That's always a great one to watch.
That is a guilty
UK
pleasure.
one is not. The UK one is not quite as good. The Australian one, brilliant.
Parkrun tourism. Yeah, you could do any one. Which one would it be?
I'd definitely choose the one on the sand dunes. I'm not sure which one that one is, but I'd have to look it up. Or the one that's the spiral. That's not that far away. Oh, yeah, it's just a big spiral that you go round and round and round and round, and then you go round and round and round and round and back. It's just a big loop. Yeah, they tick my boxes. They're just a bit random and difficult. So, yeah, let's go for it.
Go for it. Favourite exercise to do in the gym?
Jump lunge squats. So, yeah.
You'd do those with dumbbells too, would you?
Yeah, sometimes I do. But yeah, again, it's brutal. So straight down into a jump lunge, straight into a squat and a few minutes of just repeating that. Again, brutal on the quads.
They are going to build your legs up to be bulletproof. Excellent. Top tip. Yeah. If anybody's out there thinking, I fancy a bit of this Lakeland 100, a top tip to give somebody.
Don't work to a schedule. So I see so many people going, oh, I have these timings, and if I don't do this, then
Guilty.
I know I'm yeah. And I've definitely heard that was your plan. The problem with working to a schedule is that if you're not hitting your schedule, suddenly you become very depressed about the fact that you're off schedule. And likewise, if you're ahead of schedule, you start thinking, oh, I'm going to relax. If you work to a schedule, you take away the fun of the moment. And I would definitely say, if you go and do it, just be in the moment. Enjoy it for what it is. It's about the journey.
That is a nugget. That is a gold nugget for our listeners. Instagram story music time, Jackie. Yeah, every week we share the podcast over on Instagram, and you get to choose the Instagram story music. What's it going to be?
May I please have Imagine Dragons, Whatever It Takes?
That might have been on before, so that's a super popular choice, Whatever It Takes.
Oh, well, if it is, then we're going for Sweet Dreams, the Eurythmics, that one. So
both absolute classics. Thanks so much for your time today, Jackie. We are blessed every week. We talk to amazing, inspirational people who share their stories. I know there's going to be people out there listening thinking maybe they can't do something, or maybe somebody's told them, you can't do that. Maybe you shouldn't do that. I think your story proves that doesn't have to be the case. And it was great
for sure
to see you go on that stage. And like I said earlier, not a dry eye in the house.
I just want to say thank you to everyone who shared that journey with me. Every year you share that race with so many people that you've never met before, and people that you will be friends with for life. I've met so many people that I will never forget because they've been part of the journey for 1 or more years with me. And it's just special.
It does get under your skin. It is a special race. Well, thanks again for your time tonight.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.